I'm Revant with GTXR. This walkthrough is our Webspatial's web experience, spatial styling, multi-windows flows, and playful interaction you can use right now in the browser. Ryan will create a separate video which showing you the Vision Pro experience of the demo. So let's start talking about this spatial foundation we added. So first of all, in styles and global.css, let me show you the code really quick. Let's go to global CSS. Right here. So in the styles, we added some XR helpers, which is .isSpatial, .xrNav, .xrCard, .xrTel, .xrGrab, and .xrGrabbing. Right? We use CSS variables like XR background material and XR back to mimic thin, regular, thick, translucent materials and lift components along the z-axis. The result is like consistent Vision OS-like depth anywhere across with one-liner class. By centralizing materials in CSS, every component opts into depth with just a class. It keeps the whole UI coherent and spatial. Let's talk a little bit about the handy windowing helper, which is the XR window link.tsx. This is a hook that I created that is really handy in creating an Webspatial link, which will create another tab with a Webspatial experience disjoint of what's going on in the web, right? So one tiny component powers multi-window flows. So if we are in a Webspatial runtime, it uses window.open with force new to guarantee a brand new window or a scene. On plain web, it just falls back to your new tab, right? So in Webspatial, it creates like a new card. So this gives us like page to space transitions without changing our routing. A single XR window link component with the correct href with force new attribute opens in fresh workspace. Let's talk a little bit about home and home hero that actually feels spatial, the changes that we made to hero, right? The Vision Pro image gently tilts in 3D on hover. The heading and beams sit behind it for layered parallax, right? We replace the dead call to actions with a micro interaction. The hardware itself tilts in z-axis, which instantly reads as spatial even on a laptop. And we created this pretty sick quick actions card, which can be moved around in Webspatial, which is like this really good like navigation thing that we did. And you can hide this panel as well. Let's go to the projects page. Over here, we work with two things. One is applecards.tsx and applecardscarousel.tsx. So these both files over here, right? So what we really did is we added XR tilt card, XR zoom image, and yeah, pretty much these both. So when we press or hover, we pop forward and tilt pointer positions, and XR zoom image is where we use the 2 pointer pins to zoom via pointer events, and we capture both pointers, measure distance deltas, clamp scale, and spring back on release, right? So for example, if I open a spatial projects board, created a separate link here, board and another page.tsx. So this is in Webspatial, so it creates a new link here, but in the Vision Pro would create like another card, and you can play around with this and open the project, and on hovering on this, it'll give like a slight 3D tilt effect along the z-axis. So that's what we did here for the projects, and you can also reset the layout, right? So once you close this card, essentially you go back here, and let's go to the projects. So yeah, so that's like we use XR window link with the force new attribute component for this. You can see all of that in our code. The next is side panel portable tools that I already talked about, which is this draggable floating panel. But let's go to the about page. Here in the about page, this is web spatialized, this component over here. So when your eye gazes over here and you like tap using the Vision Pro, it is gonna do this cool little thing over here, the axial thing, and this sort of opens up right now in a new tab here, but in Vision Pro it'll be like a web spatial experience where as your eye is on a card and you tap using your fingers, this is gonna have this really cool interaction over here for you to look at the team. So let's go ahead and go to events. Yeah, this is a really interesting cool thing that we did, where you can view the events in Webspatial by opening something we created called events wall, right? So over here you can drag around events and obviously reset the view, and you'll be able to click on an event and actually view it. And we also added a feature where you can directly add this to your calendar with the .ics file being uploaded all in Webspatial. So we also have like an upcoming and past, so you can go like this, drag stuff here, past events, you can drag them around. So this is a pretty cool thing that we created called Events Wall. Now let's move on to the most craziest thing that we did in the sponsorship page. So we kind of refactored this and we created Fuel the Future FXR GT. So this is a new sponsorship page. We created something called a sponsor studio. So once you open the sponsor studio, you open something like this in Webspatial where we have all these orbits and you can pause the orbit. Let's talk more about this. So this is a really paused marketing section, and here the orbiting orbs, like these are sponsored that animate around the center using a tiny RAF loop, and you can drag the orb to rearrange it over here like this, and then when you release it, it'll open the card for you over there in Webspatial, right? So you can control it, you can reset it, you can add it here, it's all magnetized, by the way. So you can like sort of just containerize this, you can clear the focus, reset it, resume the orbit, and yeah, it's all magnetized like this. So this is all in Webspatial. So I want to talk a little bit about what I learned building with Webspatial. So the pointer events are the backbone, right? So one API for mouse plus touch. The set pointer capture is crucial for reliable drags and pinches. The design with materials and depth first, right? So picking which layers are near, mid, or far prevents visual noise and makes the whole UI read as spatial. Next, small motion is better than big motion. Light translate in Z axis, like light translate Z, scale and fades are enough to convey depth without disorienting users. Spaces, not pages. Leaning on multi-window creates real workspaces instead of just navigation, right? So if you create multi-windows like XR windowing components with the force new attribute, it's way better than just like navigation. What really surprised me about Webspatial Dev is how minimal the ingredients are. Rounded corners, translucency, and a hint of depth go a long way. The gaze, hover, and micro interactions replace a lot of clicks and make the UI feel alive. We could build all of this with normal React plus CSS, no exotic renderer, just get a spatial vibe, right? Which is amazing. Why Webspatial felt as unique to us is because it let us keep our web developer muscle memory with Next.js, React, and CSS and still design spatial interactions that feel right. Multi-window behavior and spatial styling hooks made it easy to evolve our site into boards and studios rather than just pages. But the key takeaways would be to just start by defining your depth layers and reuse those styles everywhere. And also build a couple of reusable interaction primitives like tilt, pinch, zoom, drag, snap, and apply them across the app. Think in workspaces. Use pop-outs, new windows to create focused areas like project boards or sponsor studios. Keep motion gentle and purposeful. Let translucency and elevation do the heavy lifting. Something that I'm really proud of is the hook that we created for Next.js, which is reusable for you guys. You can add this to Webspatial. It's something called an XR window link. So what this does is like it's a good way for you to click and create a Webspatial environment, like open up a new card in Vision Pro. So this is like kind of like new, where it really eases up the process of like hitting something and popping out a Webspatial environment in Vision Pro. So we're pretty proud to have made this as well. Thank you so much.